Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a special edition, a 2:30 edition of Telling It Like It Is Live. My name is Jade Alberts. I started this to share stories and knowledge of entrepreneurs, and today's entrepreneur is Scott Martin, the founder of Groundswell Marketing. Scott, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
Aloha. Hey, thanks for having me, man. Awesome. Super pumped to be here finally.
I know we had a little detour, but I mean your trip to New York threw a little dimple into the plans. But I mean, I'm so happy to have you here, and from what you said before, your trip was to New York was amazing. So
Yeah, I've been, like I told you before, like we were just chatting before, and I've just been living out of the suitcase. So I really appreciate making the change for the time for me to be able to be on the show. So it's awesome.
oh, absolutely. No, I've been we've been talking about having you on for a while, and I know you're a busy man, and we always both of us are great networkers, and I know we met going way back to our Nathan days, and you would have a client, and I would bring out our old hot dog big barbecue truck and work your clients' events, and we started that relationship, and it's really grown, and I'm extremely happy with that we're able to keep in touch.
Absolutely.
So
That
I'll
was
give a
when I
quick.
had but
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying that's when I had my agency SDMG, which I don't have
Oh yeah,
anymore.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and driving down to the Hat and eating hot dogs and in Calgary here, so it was good times. And yeah, actually, your agency produced my first video as well, so that was awesome.
Oh,
So
that's right. We did. That was my Laundromat Studios company that I
yeah,
wound down. Yeah, that's right.
no, and absolutely, and and I've had actually I have I know you're not involved with that, but I still use Colleen, your old colleague there, and she
Yeah,
does some great work with me
she's
and some of
amazing.
my clients.
Yeah, she's outstanding.
Oh, she
I
is
love
so.
her. She's so fucking awesome. Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
can I
she
swear?
she
Yeah, sorry.
is. Well, it's not censored, so
Sorry.
no worries. I'll give a brief introduction and then we'll get into it. So, Scott works with entrepreneurs and executives launching sustainable growth marketing ecosystems. He has 25 years in digital, direct, social, content production, and marketing roles from an agency owner and as a strategist. He's recently launched the Groundswell Marketing Podcast, sharing insights from the top industry leaders, helping marketers and entrepreneurs navigate the future and build sustainable programs that are positively impacting the world. And when I've known you for a while, as we kind of briefly discussed, and you have an impressive entrepreneurial background. You've owned several businesses. You sold your agency after 10 years. You're a managing partner, CEO of a marketing firm working with national brands, and a co-founder, board member of a proprietary loyalty marketing platform. So that is a very broad depth of experience you have. So share us your experience in starting new businesses and how do you exit them and or why do you exit them?
Well, let me first start by saying that is riddled though with failure everywhere. There's so many
Well,
failures that some of them don't even make the resume because you're just like, oh, I didn't want to talk about it. I mean, really, for every success, there's probably been so many more failures or
yeah.
or false starts and so forth. So, to your question is, how do you position an exit? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So how did you figure out to start up one and transition to another one? And when you went to from SDMG to Laundromat and then how do you exit them?
Yeah, so well, Laundromat Studios. So that was a film production company, content company. That was born out of a little bit of my personal passion around cat skiing, heli skiing. I started cat skiing, heli skiing Canada, and I fell in love with making content because I was just basically snowboarding. And my business partner was super tolerant, and he let me kind of duck out and go catch POW. And I started basically paying for my passion through film production with Colleen, who you know, and I had at the time another business partner. And so I was running that concurrently with SDMG. So Laundromat, I just wound down with Colleen just this year, not
Yeah.
because the business wasn't making money or it wasn't because I was unhappy or anything. And we didn't really look to sell it. It was just more my focus of Groundswell,
Yeah.
where SDMG was an agency that was around for 10 years, really successful, large brands. That's how I met you.
Yeah.
Working with large brands like Best Buy, Sport Check, WestJet, whatever. Major brands, mostly focused on strategic marketing, measurable marketing programs. And we ended up bringing in another third partner, and he bought us out. And it worked really good for Mike and I. And we had a similar buyout with the loyalty platform. And that loyalty platform, as you know, the guys from Canal Hotels, that was the loyalty program that managed that program still to this day.
And that is, so how did you, especially when it comes to loyalty, there's so many different loyalty programs out there. How did you create that, from scratch for a hotel chain that's basically, it's got a good strength in Western Canada?
That's a long question. It's like, I can't take the credit for build. That's really my business partner I mean, one of the biggest things I can tell entrepreneurs is like partner with someone who's smart and super resourceful. And that's what Mike was. And Mike is the guy that really spearheaded. I was more of the relationship and the marketing. And certainly I had my hand in architecting some of the unique details of the platform. But I mean, he was the real driver behind it. So, I mean, it's really collectively for sure we did it, but I don't want to take the credit as if I built this loyalty platform. But how do you build a loyalty program? Was that kind of part of the question, or? Yeah,
how do you design that for somebody? How does that work?
Yeah, I think that's like anything. When you're an entrepreneur and it was born out of solving a problem for a client, and it was out of frustration, to be really frank with you. We were like, when we were looking for loyalty platforms to work with our clients, we were always running up against walls of things that we wanted to do because we were doing stuff that was pretty sophisticated, like personalization, triggered emails. This is back before a lot of the apps exist today, and all the functionality that we wanted didn't exist, so we just built it. We built to order because we wanted it to fulfill the vision that we tried selling the client on, who was super pumped about it. But we're like, no one else can do this. So we just, like a lot of entrepreneurs, you find a way, you create a way when you're really compelled to create a way.
Oh, and that is very true. And to the point that you brought up before, I mean, having a partner, a business partner that's smarter than you. I know it's not hard for me to find someone like that, but I mean, having someone that you're able to work with and rely on and being able to, share ideas with, that's so important. Such an important part of being an entrepreneur.
It can be. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur now on my own, and for the phase of my life and the period of time that I had to get me going, that was perfect. I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything. But at this moment in time, being a solopreneur, love it.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, as you mentioned, the Canalta Group, they really helped me, guide me, show me the way, how to make decisions, how to work as an entrepreneur. I mean, I had that mindset before a little bit, but it really developed, with them, and I can't thank them enough. And of course, now me being a solopreneur, I just love it, right? I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Yeah, those guys are smart cookies. Like, what a great group to model behind. The integrity of that family and the strategic thinking. I mean, I have such great respect for them. I really enjoyed getting to know them.
No, me too. And then, I mean, the best part is, I'm still friends with them today, which is great. So, what's the best part? What's your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
I think that my first gut answer would be I can do what I want when I want. But the fucking truth is I'm working all the time. So, I mean, really, I have less time. I have less flexibility than I've ever had, but I'm doing what I love. So, I mean, what's the best part of being an entrepreneur is, charting your own star and, following your own path. I mean, that's probably the only thing that I could point to other than, the pride that you take that, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they really want to have control. I mean, control of their own lives, have some certainty that, they're building towards something. Because I think a lot of people who've been employees or people are listening that are employees, one of the frustrations is that they do an amazing job on a project thing and things shift for them. And all that investment kind of feels like, you're not sure, you're on certain ground. You're trying to build a family and try to build a future and stuff. So for me, it's about building a future that, if I die, I die by my own sword.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to die. It's growing. It's not going to happen. Not on my life. I'm so pumped about doing it. So.
Well, I know where you're coming from. I mean, that's part of my favorite part is when we're going to the lake. I'm with my family. I mean, they know that I'm going to have to scoot away every now and then to to answer call or do a little bit of time on emails, whereas you just can't walk away because you're always engaged. But I mean, I wouldn't change anything at all, with the life that I have now and the time that I'm able to spend with my family. It's priceless.
Totally. Like look at my travel schedule in the last 12 months. There's no possible way I'm unemployable. I'm unemployable. I mean, literally, I think we're just joking. I mean, I was every 3 weeks, I've been in a different city or a different country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's full on wherever I'm going. I'm part of, Tony Robbins, travel plus the client work and, surfing.
Oh, no. Well, let's talk a little bit. You mentioned, you've been really inspired by Tony Robbins, and you've really, really changed. I don't want to say change your life, but you've really become focused about self-improvement. So how do you keep, share your journey a little bit, and how do you keep a really good work-life balance now?
That's a really amazing question. That whole topic of work-life balance, I don't have it. It's like I call it work-life integration. You know what I mean? Because if you think about it, so being consciously unbalanced means that so here's an example. If you had an opportunity of your lifetime and you had to go to New York, and it was like, would you not drop everything and go there because it could be game-changing for your business? You would do that, correct?
Absolutely.
That's consciously unbalanced, meaning you're totally focused. You're out of balance in the rest of your life, probably your family, your maybe of your clients or different areas of your life, because that's going to move the ball forward. You know that's part of what's congruent with your values and so forth. So I'm consciously unbalanced right now. I know that there's other areas of my life that I'm lacking, but I went with intent that this year my focus was to absolutely obliterate the former Scott and rebuild him and really focus. It's only about like the new Scott, as much as evolving, like improving and getting around people who are much better than you so that I can increase my game. And part of that increasing my game is how can I make a bigger contribution to this world? Did that land? Or are we on a delay?
Oh, you just broke up a little bit there.
Okay. So I was just saying, for me, doing this, the outcome is about making a bigger contribution.
Yeah. No, and everybody wants to contribute. And I loved, and I watched a lot of the stuff that you posted, whether it be on LinkedIn or Facebook and other social medias. And we've had, great conversations over the phone. Sometimes our conversations are well into an hour. So, it is amazing. And then I always phrase it as a work-life balance, but it's just because that's just the tag word that seems to be used, but and integration is probably a better word. And I should maybe change my lingo on that, but I 100% agree with you. And again, when you are this entrepreneur, your family is also ready for, hey, I might have to go here. I might have to go there. I might have to fly. I might have this last minute meeting. And it gets easier as your kids get older, obviously, because now one can babysit and stay at home. So we don't have to worry about that. But no, I agree. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're a little ways from that, but it's not too bad. So I know you recently, I want to talk a little bit about your Groundswell marketing podcast. You introduced future trends, sustainable growth strategies, marketing insight. It's kind of an unconventional podcast, and you have some impressive people on there. Share how you've met these people, how you get them, and how you engage with them.
Yeah, I kind of applying a part. So I'm writing a book at the same time. Called Groundswell, and it's part of it is like how I my strategy in my book, which is building relationships. There's like an advance of being able to sort of act on the relationship. So there's an Arabic quote called "Dig a well before you're thirsty," and so I've been laying the groundwork for this podcast and my book and building relationships my entire career. So some of those people I've met, some of them I've met. Bruce Kasanoff, first guy. Most people don't know who he is. He's one of the top influencers on LinkedIn. The guy's like anyone that's a writer in the strategic marketing space. As soon as I say I got Bruce Kasanoff on my roster, they're interested. But most people don't know who he is. But if you're in the know, you know who he is. And that first episode kicked off, basically set the bar for the other people that I wanted to bring in. So some of those relationships, like Joe Pine, Don Peppers. They're people that I've known 20 years ago when I was working in personalization technologies back in 2000. So I've never really acted on doing something in the relationship. And when I showed up to have something of value for them, which is this podcast, it was what's really kind of kickstarted it. But now what's a little different is now I'm actually reaching out, building relationships, and really trying to make my podcast be unconventional and not be like marketing 101. I mean, if you're new to marketing, you'll probably like it because there's lots of great information, but I'm not there to train somebody that's going, you need to be on social media. This is like what's going on next in a very unconventional way. So I'm really looking at maybe even some really different angles. I've got some crazy interviews. I'll just share it with, I haven't told anybody this, so I'll tell this on the show. So I've got, and people are going to think, they're going to have no idea what to think of this, but I've got this guy named Guru Singh. He's like a spiritual leader, and I'm going to have him on my podcast because I got a contact from this multimillionaire who I met who said, I was talking about this whole concept of mindful marketing and being more conscious about commerce. He's going, why don't you talk to Guru Singh? So I'm talking to him. He's actually going to go on my podcast. We're going to talk about marketing and spirituality because he's an amazing marketer. He's got a massive following. And it's also like looking at marketing and trying to bring in a new voice, new perspective, not just the traditional, like consistent ones you normally see, but also some of those. Neil Patel, he's like world renowned. He was just on my podcast. Jay Bear, he's sort of talk triggers, one of the top guys in the world on word of mouth marketing. So, so I kind of blending a little of both and stuff. So part of it is mix of past relationships. Part of it is me making new relationships. But now it's more that podcast is enough momentum, a little bit like yours. You're on your 100th episode, you said, which, by the way, I just got to honor you. Like 100 episodes, like, does anybody that's listening, do they understand how much work goes into the consistency of executing on something like this? It's impressive. Like, I gotta tell you, it's impressive. So, the podcast now is taking ground, sort of like your program. And it's now I have a voice and I have a different perspective that I'm offering to bring.
No, I mean, that's, and thank you for the kind words. It's, we will be coming up to 100 here relatively soon. So it's something that I am proud of, and I might have to pick your brains on who I should bring on or what I should do for my 100th. So I might, we might be having a little chinwag about that, but I am talking to Scott Martin of Groundswell Marketing. You can click on his website is in the comment section. You can click on there. Of course, it's on the screen. So what, you've been doing, obviously so many impressive things, but what's next for you?
Well, right now, I'm really focused on getting this book done. That's a really large priority for me. Getting my sort of concepts really put to bed and put out in public and do some public speaking. I am doing some consulting. I'm mostly focused on consulting. Most of my clients now, I have one client actually in Canada. All my clients are somewhere else around the world, and that's by design. I've, very purposely wanted to be on any sort of clock, so I have a reason to travel and also diversifying my risk. I think being in Alberta is a lesson to a lot of us that, the local economy has its own sort of ebb and flow, and right now it's not doing as great as it used to be. And for me, that's kind of where I want to be able to go wherever the business is. So until you kind of train yourself to kind of make it happen, use the tools to make it happen, you just always think you're going to do it and you never do it. So I just set out to say, look, if business locally comes to me, that's great. But I'm really not focused on local business. I'm focused on international business. And that's really honed a different skill set that I'm really pushing my game up to really try to see if I can expand that. Do we have a delay?
No, I just hear your speaker seems to be cutting out every now and then.
Oh, but sorry.
The joy of live. The joy of live. That's the way she rolls.
Right. Is this a little better?
Yeah. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I wish I
it's so true.
I thought of that beforehand. It probably sounds a lot better now.
But it is true. When I see you out there, and especially when I kind of did the other way. I was a little bit more around the world and in North America, and I kind of sucked it back into wanting to stay home, wanting to be home, and not travel as much anymore. But then those are obviously for different reasons. Obviously, our kids are getting older, and there's a lot of really successful businesses in this city that have needed a little bit of a push forward to get to the next level. So it's amazing how you and I have gone the opposite ways over the last probably 10, 12 years. But and we're both doing our own thing, and we're both loving our lives and are successful. So you never know which path you're going to take.
Totally. And, like, to me, I'm really proud of my roots here in Calgary, and I'm really proud of what is rising from, the changes. I feel like there's the rise of entrepreneurialism. There's more diversification than ever before. Seeing some of the amazing startup activities. This whole thing, this thing's giving a lot of voice to a lot of local business and stuff. So, for me, it's like I'd like to hope that I'm an example, a model that other local businesses can view the world as their stage. And, I think unfortunately there's a little bit of, I think this might be a Canadian thing, not a Calgary thing. So Calgarians can be entrepreneurial. We sometimes don't think big enough. And the more I'm spending around people in the States, they just think so big, right? So, I think that if there's anything that comes hopefully from this podcast, I hope somebody just really challenges themselves to just really push and think outside of the Calgary environment and grow, because you just be so rewarded, because people just love working with Canadians. We have an advantage with the dollar. When you start realizing the world really is your oyster, starts getting really exciting.
No, I agree. And, I had this discussion today about scaling up businesses with Startup Canada. So that is interesting that, that you mentioned that and you're thinking global. So I know you gave that little tidbit of advice about, thinking larger than it should. But if you had one piece of advice for a startup, a small business, or an entrepreneur, what would that be, Scott?
So I'm known as a growth hacker, as you know. My focus is on growth marketing for businesses and entrepreneurs. And my biggest piece of advice is patience. I think one of the biggest pervasive and problematic mindsets is this frantic notion of growing so fast. And I think I get the notion of like the hustle side. I get that. And I'm not saying not hustle. And I'm not saying not like do your best to move things forward. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is have patience, because I think what happens a lot of times is an expectation. And what happens is like one or two examples of somebody that's just blown up so fast. And what they don't hear is the stories of the business that blew up, but they didn't have it sustainable. They had a moment in time. And so everybody just is chasing those shooting stars. And really the reality is that if you ask anybody that's been in business for a long time, and if you're really trying to build a business, think about it. If you know that you're gonna be in business for a long time, then act like it. Because if you're running a sprint, you're not gonna have as much gas in the tank. You're not gonna have as much. But if you're climbing Mount Everest, you're gonna have base camps. You're gonna take your time. You're gonna act a little differently. The cadence, the planning, the thinking, and more importantly, the mindset. So again, my advice to anybody is have the mindset of patience, but work like hell. Is there a delay still?
No, I mean the patience is such a, as I was talking, a little bit with you before, how many different pieces of advice I get from this question, and patience is I don't even know if it's been said or not before. Maybe it has, but it is something that I agree with, because as you said, everybody wants to, they want to be, it has to happen now. And unfortunately that's a today's world thing. We got an 8-second, to keep our attention, and a goldfish is 9 seconds. So they say, but I mean, everybody wants everything as it comes and they think we deserve it, but everyone is scared to, take your time, do it right, grow organically. And that is a way that you're going to sustain a successful business.
Totally. I mean, the truth is, I know Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm part of his 4D program. So it's like a mastermind program. And I'm every Monday or Tuesday, they post stuff and we share stuff. I missed the meetup in London. I missed the one in New York, but there was always meetups with Gary and the group. And, I love Gary's message about hustling, but I think what a lot of people are missing when they hear that and they look at what he's posting, what he's saying is put the energy into it, but he's also saying have the patience to see it through to the end. And I think that is what a lot of young entrepreneurs, and in some cases older ones, are also not funding or managing or dealing with their cash flow not just mindset, but also their cash flow in short-term thinking. And that's how you get yourself in trouble.
Oh, short-term thinking makes long-term decisions look bad. I mean, that's something that you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, you consult that all the time. You help people with their P&L statements. You're coaching on that, and the cash flow is the lifeblood of the business. So, my second advice to this would be really is own your cash flow. Like, make that your number one priority. If you have cash flow, you have life. And far too many are focusing on how to spend their investment, when really the investment should be spent on not just productizing, it should be on how fast we can get to cash flowing. And that'll make an investor really happy, and it also means you're not burning all your cash. So, I think that the art of cash flow is the topic of the day, in my opinion, for startups.
No, I agree. No, it's totally. I mean, cash is king. Cash doesn't grow on trees. It's hard to come by. It's hard to find people to invest with or to invest in you. And it is something that, you better be on top of it, or you're not going to go very far. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the perspective, and that's something that I'm learning a little bit more, is that there is money out there. It's hard if you're not. See, it's hard for the companies that don't understand this cash flow and understand how to balance their books. But if you have a good product and you're dedicated and you're thinking long term, you got great cash flow, I think money's available. And I think the biggest maybe impediment to making that feeling exist is focusing just only on the local funding opportunities here, and not looking more broadly, more just differently. There's so many, like, the more I've been traveling to do some of these European, like I'm going to Switzerland on Tuesday, and I'm going to a financial summit, and the people that are that invited me to this thing that I met there, I mean, I was talking about funding and stuff in Europe, and they're like, a lot of these places don't know where to put the money. So it's like, I think that's a bigger. There's really a misconception that funding is hard to find. I think it's maybe it's just connecting with the money and making sure you're attractive enough for the money.
No, very true. Yeah, it's sometimes people don't have these connections to make, to get introduced to these people, but that's a whole new discussion.
Yeah. Well, but it's like things like this. I mean, you're making connections with this here. I think that's one thing that people think that they have to go to cocktail parties. And with today with social selling, social media, I mean, I did an episode with the top social selling expert on my podcast, and he can, like, that the strategy of being able to utilize LinkedIn, like you're doing, and get yourself out there, is you get yourself connected to people all around the world. And what people are missing is they're missing they're converting the audience attention to making a deeper connection, and then they make a connection, and then they don't follow up with it or try to build a relationship. I think that's where it all falls off the table. So how many people have, they'll send they don't even personalize a note to you on LinkedIn, and they want to follow you, but then they don't even go why, or they don't follow up with you, or there's no connection. And so people wonder why they're not able to build relationships. I think if they just focus more on the quality of the relationship and thought more long-term about what's that person, like, what can I do? And this is kind of my advice, is like, when I'm building a relationship, I'm not focusing on what I can get. My relationship build is, how can I add value to this person? What can I do so that they view me as a person of value? And if something comes in their sphere of interest or influence or an opportunity, that's why people go like, Scott, how does this stuff just come to you? Well, it's because I've been investing in helping people and giving value for years. Yeah. And it's now just coming home, and it's like exponentially giving me returns. So I think if a lot of people really focused on that, and this is what you're doing, so that's basically what I want to do, is, again, edify you and honor you, because you're doing that. You're doing something of value to the community, to the business community, the local community. And this whole thing is of value because you're talking about things that people don't talk about. I mean, we've mentioned on the show a few times that there's some things that people normally don't talk about, but they're really important for entrepreneurs to hear. And you're touching on those points. That's something of value. So you're now a person in this community of value. You're banking equity, building relationships. And that's what I think more people need to do.
No, I agree. I agree. And I'm always walking into a relationship as are you. You know, how can I help that person first before I think of ever getting anything in return? And that's just kind of the way I am, and the way I will always be. So, it's just something that it just, it's part of Jade Alberts.
Yeah, and you know what? Totally, you are. I mean, I know that about you. I mean, you're such a generous guy. And you're so kind-hearted and thoughtful when you're interacting. Because I was your supplier at one point, and I know what that was like. And you're amazing. And I think also, being Canadian, like, we should export this stuff. We're cool. Like, we're super fun. And then we're Calgarian. We're freaking entrepreneurial badasses. Like, I wish more Calgarians would just be like, be more confident about who we are. Because once we get out to the world, and like, you go in these big markets, you're like, oh, I couldn't possibly have something for people in New York. Well, I just flew in for people in New York, and they're like, we need more people like you, because in New York it's just a different mindset. But your personality, a lot of Calgarians, we're so resourceful. We don't have the access to the type of capital movement, things that are happening in New York. But you go into that market, they suddenly, what you view as your weakness is actually your strength. And I think that's a really important message for young business owners that are listening to your event or your show, is you're bigger than you think you are, and you should don't think that being nice is you got to be more aggressive. I think it's more just put yourself out there and still be nice. You're gonna go far.
No, I agree. And you know what, Scott, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. And I know you're between, and I'm glad we were able to, delay this for, 4 or 5 hours to have you on, because this is, in my opinion, one of the best chats I've had. Thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
You bet. And thank you so much for doing this show. I think this is a great service to our community, to the businesses, to entrepreneurs, to Calgarians and Canadians. So thank you so much.
I appreciate the kind words, and I hope everybody gets some great advice out of Scott. We'll be back next week at 9:30 in the morning. And again, thank you, Scott. And I'm sure we'll catch up relatively soon.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.